Hello and welcome to our What's New in 12D webinar series. My name is Lisa Stewart and I'm the Marketing and Communications Coordinator at 12D Solutions. While we wait for our guests to finish joining, I'll be launching 3 polling questions. You'll have about 30 seconds to answer each and then I'll show the results. Firstly, we'd like to know, what version of 12D model are you using? Version 11, version 10, version 9 or earlier? Okay, it looks like pretty much everyone's using version 11, so you'll be upgrading to 12D Model 12 soon, I hope. Next, we'd like to know how many people are watching this webinar with you. Are you alone, are you in a small group, or are there more than 5 of you there in the room? Okay, it looks like we've got a number of small groups watching together today, but most people are there by themselves. Welcome, everyone. And lastly, we'd like to know, which area of 12D do you use the most? Design, survey, drainage and water, or 12D synergy? Wow, it looks like we've got a really even mix of attendees today, so I'm sure there's going to be something for everyone. 12D Solutions will be releasing the new 12D Model 12 in September 2016, and this webinar series will highlight some of the new features. These presentations are designed to give existing 12D model users an insight into the new features and enhancements in 12D Model 12. We'll also be showcasing new features in 12D Synergy 3. Both new product releases will be showcased in more detail at our upcoming 12D International Conference in July, but these webinars will provide an exciting preview of things to come. This webinar series will be in 3 parts, so if you haven't registered for the Wednesday and Thursday sessions this week, you can stop by our website and do so after today's webinar. During this live presentation, you'll be able to type your questions along the way, as shown on the screen, and we'll answer as many as possible throughout the webinar. Any questions we don't have time for during the presentation will be responded to afterwards. Our main presenter today will be Dr. Lee Gregory, the Managing Director and Co-founder of 12D Solutions. We'll also hear from Peter Tainton of 12D Queensland, Rob Graham, our Resident Water Resources Engineer, and our General Manager, Joel Gregory. For now, over to you, Lee.
Thank you, Lisa. Good to welcome everybody today. I see most people are coming on from the east coast of Australia, although Lane in New Zealand looks like he must be having a late lunch, so welcome to you as well, Lane. What are we doing in these webinars? Well, we're going to look at things in 12D Model 12 and also some new things in 12D Synergy 3. Today is part 1, tomorrow will be part 2, and Thursday part 3. Each part will be different and they're repeated 4 times for various users around the world. What's in the webinars? We'll be covering, as I say, lots of things in 12 and Synergy 3, but not to any great detail. They'll actually be done at the conference. So at our conference in July, in the Birds of a Feather session, we'll go through details of a lot of the options we are looking at today. And after the conference, attendees on maintenance will have access to the technical preview version for August before we release in September. With the conference, if you haven't already got into the Innovations Award, it closes at the end of this month. It's actually $15,000 of prizes to be won, and there's various areas. You can go to a website to get details. So you can, half page, 1 page is all you need. So if you've got a good idea or something you've been doing, just send it along so you can win a prize, and we award that at the dinner. Right, now let's get back into it and start looking at what happened in 11. We had lots of new things there. We thought it was going to be a small release, a catch-up release, but we ended up having many things in there. For example, Trimeshes, total rework of MTF, snippets, BIM, tunnels, drainage, 12D model and synergy integration, point clouds, dimensions, leaders, tables, plot sheets, ADAC, and E-plan for all up the East Coast. For version 12, again, after 2 big releases, we thought this would be a small catch-up release. So we'll see what you think after the 3 days of sessions, whether or not that's the case. So let's start and see what's in 12D Model 12. One thing everyone might like to see is an auto-save option. It's quite simple to activate. If you go into where you can set how long between you get the want to save messages, if you make a negative number like -5, it'll auto-save every 5 minutes. So you don't have to remember what to do and when to do it. We can now actually pick and highlight in perspective OpenGL views and also in plan OpenGL views. Before you could pick, but you actually didn't see it highlighting, so that's all now been fixed up for version 12. And you can now have exaggeration perspective OpenGL views. You always had them for a standard perspective view, but this is now for OpenGL ones as well. In the names.4D pop-up, there's now an all section. And remember in 11 we went so you could have groups in these names, so you don't have to have them see them at once, but people like to see all of them. So if you click on that all, it'll show you the full list, more or less like you saw it in version 10. So you've got both modes now that you can work with. With tins you can set attributes, and we'll see attributes a lot today in the end parts 2 and 3 because they're becoming so important for doing other things with. You can rename a super tin. You can also copy a tin from a folder and a model from a folder. What this is all about is that you can't, or you shouldn't, and if you do, you'll screw up 12D model. You can't just copy something with Windows, a model or a tin, into your project. It'll overwrite the existing one, and all the IDs will get out of order, and all sorts of funny things happen. In version 11, there was an option to get a model and bring it in from a project, and similarly with a tin. But a lot of people mightn't have a project. Someone's just sent them a model. So with this option, you can just put tins or models into a folder, and then from 12D model, it will bring them in. And more importantly, it fixes up the ID for all of those models and tins, so you won't get that problem. So no matter what you do, just bring a few models or tins back from backup. There's now a way of getting them in, even without a project. We can explode lots of things. I think there's a few more. You can explode text boundary to get a polygon of it with or without fill. Explode symbols, dimensions, tables, trimeshes. You can explode trimeshes into the individual triangles, and for some you might then go and delete a whole lot of them. And we'll show you later how you can actually build that back into another trimesh. There's a zip version of our 12D XML. Bit by bit 12D XML is replacing 12DA, exactly the same sort of information. It's an open thing that everyone can use, but XML is becoming much easier to use these days. There's a background color for the mesh library rather than just the one black. You can read clipboard format from BricsCAD. Before it was different to AutoCAD, so we just had to put something special in there. With the section view properties, we didn't have corridor extend on the thing, but they're now there for you. And we've got the start and end change on interface function, so you don't have to do an interface down the whole string. And they're actual smart changes, and we've started to add smart change into a lot of other options which have a start and end change. Big icons. What's the point about this? Well, with high resolution screens in tablets, you've got sort of two problems going on. With high res screens, a 16 by 16 icon is often too small to read or see. And on tablets, you need bigger buttons so you can get your finger on them, especially for me with fat fingers. So what we've got is that you're able to have set your toolbar icons to be bigger, and you can say they're 50%, 100%, 150 or 200% larger, and you can set that so you can see them much more easily. And similarly, there's a separate one for views, the buttons on views, and here I've just set them as 50% larger. They're different because it depends what you're doing. You may want one bigger, not everything get bigger. The attribute manipulator. Now this was introduced in version 11 C1H because we found lots of uses for it. So it came a little bit early, but it's been beefed up heaps inside version 12. It works with string, vertex and segment attributes and properties. It also can work with bringing in and out model attributes and also project attributes. And it's capable of creating, deleting and manipulating these attributes and properties. But what will be easier to do is get Pete to demonstrate that to you.
Attributes inside 12D are used extensively. They're used in ADAC, transfer to KML, BIM attributes, survey attributes picked up in the field, through to 12D fields set out, and also the introduction of attributes to design strings and trimeshes. So part of that process is to be able to manage the attributes. So that's come with the introduction of a attribute manipulator. There's a bit of help on this, so if you need more information you can look at the help. But in this particular demonstration, we can look at a few of the aspects of what the manipulator can do for you. Generally start with deleting attributes. So rather than having to use the F8 and go into delete and delete all attributes, you can use the manipulator to delete exactly what you're after. So in this case here, we'll just get a name, and we add the rule in. We've got a use and a modifier option. So if I don't know what the attribute is, or there's some attributes that I may or may not want to get rid of, I can go to the modify, I can select an attribute or an element, and on that I can turn around and say, look, I want to get rid of some of these particular attributes. So I may want to get rid of the string number, for instance. So when you do that, you don't fill out anything here, and then the message on the side will say delete string, and the attribute is called string number. So if I want to delete, so I can pick just that one attribute, or I could go through and say, look, I want to be able to delete attributes. Okay, and I go and pick something, and I might turn around and say, look, I want to get all those, rather than pick them one at a time. I might just get everything that starts with tree. So I'm going to set there, and then we go and pick that again. So pick that button and go set. So down the bottom here, and I can just change that to tree asterisk. So now we'll go and get rid of everything that starts with tree. To apply that, the actual rule or the manipulator file, under attributes, apply. So we just pick one of these trees. Again, we'll grab the option to delete attributes, override the data and apply. So we look at the attributes now, and the attributes are gone, anything to do with tree plus also the string attribute. So again, you can go back and forth, and you can delete attributes as fast as that. It's also a really quick way to create attributes. Okay, so here I'm looking at the creation of an attribute. So again, I've added a rule in, and then I've just simply said I want to be able to create a new attribute. So I've just picked string, give it a name. I'm expecting a text value. I've typed in a name that I want, and it'll now apply that attribute to anything that I select in my data source. So we're selecting, naming the name of the street, the county that it's in, and so forth. These are all set as string attributes. You also can go and set them as vertex attributes and segment attributes as well. So it depends on what you're after. So again, if I run that, I can simply select the string, I select the building, I'll go and create attributes, and again apply. So F8 on the building now has the location and the county set. So it's quite easy to create attributes using the manipulator. Other types of options you can do. We've got here to convert to pipe. This is a great one. So basically, when you get attributes that have been set on strings, and in case this, we'll have a look at the attribute on the string, and it's been set to a size 1 is the diameter. But we want to be able to take that attribute, we've picked up the field and they all vary, so we'd like to be able to use that attribute to set the actual diameter inside here rather than worrying about mapping files and things like that. So we simply just go down, we say, okay, what's the attribute I want? In this case, we want to use an attribute and then apply it to something. So in this case here, we're going to go use, and I would have picked the string and then picked up size. So that's how you can use the actual picker rather than having to type these things in. So once I've picked the attributes that I wish to use, I'm then going to set it to a string property in this case here, and the property I want is pipe diameter. So transfer of attributes to string properties makes sense for some things and not for others. But for pipe diameter, it works quite well. So in that case here, I go apply. It's now set the pipe diameter for me. So even though that string has a pipe option turned off, it is turned on and set via the attribute here. So if I now pick another pipe, go apply, it'll then set the pipe diameter for me. The ability to be able to set properties of the string to attributes and vice versa can come up in the option here, miscellaneous. So here we're going to look at a vertex attribute. Again, we use the picker to select the string and find out what the attribute was. And it was a type, and the attribute set up here is the type was set to concrete. But it's a vertex survey pickup attribute. We want that to be a string attribute. So we're going to use that attribute. We're going to set it to a string attribute called surface type. This is auto, so it knows automatically to utilize whether it's a text, whether it's an image, or whether it's a real, and sets that for you. Also able to use some of the string properties. And in this case here, I'm picking up the string property as the item to use. I'm picking area. I'm going to set it to an attribute on the string called area. Again, just let's be auto. Then I'm picking up the 2D length of the string that I picked, which is the driveway, and setting that as the perimeter. Then picking up the area. So again, under the string property, I've just select area 2D. But I want to be able to use that area value in some sort of calculation. So I'm able to set it as a label, and I've called the label area. So when I drop down to here, I can actually do and set an attribute and use that as a substitution value. So here I'm setting an attribute called volume concrete, and I'm then getting a dollar area, which is a label value, multiplying it by 0.15 to get a volume of concrete. So again, if I pick my driveway, I want to go set miscellaneous and apply. Now we've looked at the driveway, we've got this other thing, we've got this surface type taken from a vertex survey pickup. We've got the area, the perimeter of the driveway, and now a calculation of volume based on a 150 deep slab. This option here, we're going to look at creating some rules for some tree attributes to string. So I've got a tree down here, and if we have a look at the attributes, there's attribute from survey, and there's a trunk size in decimals, in real values, and a foliage and a species type as well. We want those to be string attributes for some particular reason. So if we add that in, again, we want to know what we're going to use it for. So we go and select the tree. We drop down to vertex and we say, what do we want that there? So we want the species, we want the trunk size, and maybe the foliage. We're going to set. So drop up the first one. So we're going to use that. So what do we want? We want that to be a string attribute. And it's going to be called the same name. That makes sense. And we'll just let it go auto. Drop down to the next one. Again, that's also going to be a string attribute. It's a trunk size. So I want to also have that as the same attribute name. I want to be able to turn that from a real value into an integer and a whole number. So I change that to an integer. And I want to put a factor in here. So I want to multiply that by 1,000. So rather than 0.2, it'll be 200. And the other one is just simply a string attribute again. It's just a foliage size. Again, the auto will take care of the attribute type for me. I can write that out. Again, if I now pick the tree, I grab the tree to attributes and apply. So now I've got the attributes set as string attributes, the palm, the integer value for the trunk size, and again the foliage. One of the reasons for taking vertex attributes and so forth, making the string attributes, is for the export to KML, which only takes flat lists. So again, we can have a KML output. We can look at the we've used the same option. We've picked the string and then said what sort of attribute we want. So we put the KML in front, and it's automatically just taking care of the values for me. So it's gone to the foliage, set it all as KML spread, picked up the vertex attribute here instead of the string, and set that to the cover type. Again, we're doing the diameter and having the integer value and multiplying by 1000 as a factor, and setting the material type and also the diameter. So now apply that to our tree, and we'll select our KML output and apply. So now, besides the other attributes that we set, we've got a listing for KML. Just to recap, the types you can pick. You can also pick up string attributes, segment attributes, string properties. You can even get project and model attributes. You might want to take those and set them to strings. And you can also do it the other way around. You can take a string or vertex attribute and set it as a project attribute. So in that case there, we have both either the to use and the modify, and the picker to make it a bit easier to pick the attributes rather than typing them. Last of all, there's an option here for the direction, forward or backward. All that means is that if it does make sense, it will basically take this attribute and create that one, or this one to create that one. So it's up to the user to be sure that makes sense to them.
Thank you, Pete. You can see from that short example why we've presented the attribute manipulator, because there's so many things you can do with it, and you're going to use those attributes in things like BIM, GIS, ADAC, and even with your survey pick-up and set-out, where you often now can bring in attributes and use them. Now we'll move on to Trimeshes, which were introduced in version 11. And basically they're things like for pavements and things that have got some depth to them and size. Things are no longer, they can fold under themselves, unlike tins. And when you section through them, if they're ones that are closed Trimeshes, you'll see a solid section. We've actually added a whole lot of extra things in for Trimeshes in version 12. Same as works for it. You can convert things when you convert them into Trimeshes. The string attributes go with it. You can globally delete them. You can globally rename them. The element transformation works on Trimeshes. And you can set the colour from individual triangles in it. And you actually have vertex and segment information. Now, why on earth would you like that? Well, maybe your information came from strings in the first place and apply FTF. In this case, you can give all these segments in the Trimesh the names of that string and the vertex other information. So when you take it out in the field to set it out, you know exactly where it was made up. You don't need the strings as something separate. So the Trimesh is perfect for setting out in the field. It's got all that information in it. You also can find intersection lines of a Trimesh in a tin, intersections or lines of Trimeshes with other Trimeshes, and you can also contour a Trimesh. Another little thing we've got in there is to turn Trimesh planar polygons into a Trimesh. And what that means is if you've got a whole lot of faces existing in a plane, you can actually build something from them quite easily. So for example here with this pyramid, if you've got a face for the base and for the other four sides, you run this option, it makes it into a solid Trimesh. Another option in there, which a lot of people will find useful, is splitting Trimeshes along a string. So often, certainly when you're doing design work, you might have a Trimesh for the whole pavement, but someone wants it broken up, say every 5 metres, and you can then set areas and things, so you can put it out, say, to a BIM system. Well, in that case, you can run the splitter. You're going to say we're going to break it up every 5 metres, and what you end up with is it looks the same, the result, but when I pick on it, you'll see I've just got a 5 metre section. So it's a nice simple way of breaking up your Trimesh. There's a whole lot of ways they're used, and I'll just get Peter to demonstrate some of them to you.
Trimeshes were first shown in B11. And options have been updated and new ones added in B12. The original application was shown in the Apply menu. In this case here, we're looking at using snippets. The snippets library has been enhanced. We now have options here to create pavements, as shown. We can look at also creating trenches and also retaining walls. So these snippets are try 2-point pavement for design, curve profiles, and even ones utilising named grades to specify surfaces on your road and batter slopes. Once a Trimesh has been created in B12, we're also now able to attach attributes to those Trimeshes and also other strings inside your design. In this case here, we're looking at our trench. So we're picking our Trimesh and we're creating an attribute path, utility/type, and type is water. Again, we're doing the same for the size in the utility, the size of the pipe, and the material. We drop down to pavement areas. Here we're setting attributes for the AC pavement, what type of surface it is, and the pavement depth. So these attributes are used through our 12D and also are available in our BIM output and used in ADAC. Go to look at the strings Trimesh. There's an extensive menu in relation to Trimeshes. We can create Trimeshes from any 12D objects, from OBJ files, FBX. We can also create Trimeshes from tins. We can select polygons and create Trimeshes from polygons. And under tools, we have other options, extensive options in being able to split, find the intersections of Trimeshes and tins, intersection of Trimeshes, good for tunnel situations, and also being able to create Trimeshes from 3D planar polygons. The data input and the FBX automatically asks you for a model for Trimeshes, so then you can end up with options like this being read in, and again, with being a Trimesh now, you can then section through the Trimesh and get a good idea of the shape, and also if you're after clearances. So we'll go back to our option here under tools. There's a good one here, Trimesh from 3D planar polygons. So in that case here, if you have a 3D planar surface, it'll be able to convert that to a Trimesh. But even better, if all those surfaces touch, it will then create a 3D solid object. So here we've got some surfaces that make up headwalls. We'll go create. You see now that you've got the actual true headwall shape. Let's use our favourites to go to our second headwall view, and here we've got a rough pipe cut in there, and to demonstrate the ability of the 3D planar surface. Use of Trimeshes tunnels has been expanded. Here we're looking under our design tunnel structures. We can select a profile to create a snippet dimensions of the tunnel and apply those through our design MTF.
So Trimeshes, we'll show more in some part 2 of how to do them, especially using snippets and MTFs. They're very fundamental to all of our work, and you'll see them used as virtually everywhere in 12D model. Right, the next thing we're going to look at is BIM. And as you know, BIM means lots of things to different people. So I'll just talk about how it came about and how we've approached it. BIM had a long history, and basically it was for collaborating and sharing of data on projects, and for being software vendor neutral, so everyone could get data from everyone else. And the IFC format was the non-proprietary format that was proposed to be used with it. 3D visualizations, although they seem the major thing today, is not the major thing in BIM. In a lot of systems they can't even see it. They want the attributes and metadata. So if you went into a facilities management system, they just want to know that information. They don't want to care what a chair looks like or the room. They just want to know some attributes they can use. In Queensland in 2005, the Department of Project Services actually announced they'd use IFC format. And so we actually put things into it so that you actually could use it. Unfortunately, we had the IFC reader and writer, which was shown at the conference in 2007. Then things went super quiet, so it looked like BIM was going nowhere. Then around about the 2010 onwards, it started appearing everywhere. Unfortunately, there are some clever salespeople out there, and they just convinced BIM novices that what all BIM was using Revit and Navisworks. So unfortunately, we degenerated into that being what everyone meant by BIM. So we actually responded to that, and so we had to figure out how to get data to and from Revit and Navisworks. Because there's no concept of spatial structure, and our IFC writer used that, we came up with the IFC Express writer. So that would quickly put data out. You don't have to set up any BIM social structure. We also found that Revit and Navisworks could not read IFCs in the same way, interesting, and so we've got various ticks and things on there so you can write the data correctly to go out to different AutoCAD products which seem to need things. We also can write trimeshes to polymeshes in DWG, so it's another method of getting data across to BIM. And for Revit, we actually know it can't handle large coordinates. We've only really discovered that. So we've actually in 12 got a local origin, so we can reduce the size of the coordinate values. Fortunately, we can do nothing about the fact that Revit can only handle small areas, about up to 20 kilometres max. Getting data from Revit, we've put the FBX reader in, and we keep upgrading this and upgrading them for version 12. We can read the polymesh from DWG. And once you've got the data inside 12D, Helmet Translate and Scale can work for trimeshes so we can place it. So even though that data's got 0, 0 in the corner, you can bring it and place it in a large-scale civil project. So here's some examples of data we brought in from Revit in this case, and it's mixed with 12D models, so a lot of the other data is from 12D model. Similarly here, it's brought in some bridges and things, and other stuff is in 12D model. In this case, it's a whole house. And once it's in there, of course, we're able to use it for things like profiling and all the things we had inside 12D model. These options were scattered around different places, so we've now actually added in a BIM menu. So there's one under File I/O, and it's got then the various things for turning objects into trimeshes, and also some import and export, and we'll just add to that as we find more BIM applications and what they need. So basically in our industry at the moment, people are wanting to design using 3D solids. They want to expect their design in 3D. You want to be able to store and process attributes or metadata with the 3D solids we're creating. And slowly people are realizing that civil data is totally different from a building with 0, 0 in the corner. So what we're really talking about is a civil BIM for large-scale projects. So in that, you need a map projection, otherwise you can't bring the stuff together properly. Unique coordinates, they're going to be large, like MGA. Your designs have to be done with 3D solids, and everything with trimeshes allows you to do that inside 12D. You want to be able to look at the design in 3D, which you could always do in 12D model. And you can have attributes. You want metadata and things to be saved with it. And once the IFC standard's there, to actually use it. Now for civil, it's not there yet. I'm on committees for working with committees on the alignment for IFCs for roads, rail, tunnels and bridges, and they're all still just coming out. But they will be there in the future. So 12D model is already a civil BIM system, so you're using it today. Because it's so important, you keep seeing examples of BIM as we go through our examples, and also writing it out to Celebri and things like Google Earth. Right, now for something totally different, we'll go on to drainage. And in this case, the drainage 4D was just a text editor used on that before. So we've now actually beefed it up that it's got its own front end, so you can fill things in. And even more, you can actually create a drainage.4D file from a model where it'll scan it for pits and pipes and build a drainage.4D file for you. A lot of things in drainage, you only want to say a couple of decimal places, and I'll just get Rob explain of what we've done there for people.
Traditionally, 12D model has calculated pipe invert levels and pit levels to 6 decimal places, as you can see here on the pipes tab, or if you want to cross to the pit tab. In version 12, if we go to the defaults, we've now given the option to set defaults or explicitly set the number of decimals for these calculations. So if I was to change my default RL for my pipes to 2, and we'll do the same for the pits, then when we come across and do a set pit details, if I was to come back to the pit tab, we will now see that the levels were rounded off to, calculated to 2 decimal places. But notice the sump RL isn't. That's because it's dependent upon the pipe RL levels. So if I was to come back now and go regrade pipes, you'll notice now that it has changed to 0.22 to 2 decimal places. And of course, if I was to go across to the pipe tab, we would see that those were taken down to 2 decimal places at all as well. Now, we changed those on the global, but you'll also notice that if for some reason you needed more precision on a particular pipe or a particular pit, you could override that default setting by setting the number of decimals for your pipes there, or back to the pit type, you could override that here with the RL decimals.
We've also added defaults for drainage, so it's much easier to create things. And again, I'll get Rob to show you that rather than try and explain it.
This 12D enhancement makes it quicker to create a new drainage stream. Moving up to our design drainage sewer, looking across to our create menu, 12D over the years has created several tools to help create drainage streams quickly. We're going to take a look at the basic create. Now in the past, when it's come time to create a drainage stream, we've always asked our users to take a look at their default settings first. Let's go up to our design drainage sewer, move down to our defaults, and let's pin up our manhole defaults, put that up in the corner, and then our pipe defaults to go with it. So that now they're ready to go to change the defaults as we create a drainage stream. We make this much easier now, so instead of doing all those previous steps, we'll simply input string number 1, stormwater model, come up to create, down to edits, add a pin, and immediately we bring up the drainage default panel for you, where you can set the defaults for your next stormwater pit or the stormwater pipe.
Right, we've also got extra symbol bearing modes when we're placing down pits. This is obviously for rectangular pits. And with pipe grading, there's now you can have the inverts so they're on the tin. And with manholes, there's extra things there for when it's manhole, it'll actually can have a bearing so it can be used in other times. Right, the other thing I will go back to is 12D Synergy. This is something that a lot of you aren't using at the moment, but I think you'll see we'll show you some new things in here. So I'll give you a big section on it here to go through, and we'll show a little bit more in the next couple of days. So I think you'll find there's lots of things in now here that you could be using Synergy for, from a small one-man group up to large firms.
Hi, my name is Joel Gregory and I'm the General Manager for 12D Solutions. Today I'm going to be covering what's new in 12D Synergy version 3. Synergy is 12D's data management and project collaboration tool, and it's been used widely across Australia and New Zealand by consultants, contractors, surveyors and even government departments, from very small businesses to super large multinational companies. So it's really exciting, and I'm glad I can show you all the features that are in version 3. And one of the main features are the file replication servers. Now, what this allows, if you've got multiple offices, you can put a file replication, say, in Brisbane, and then all your files can be cached locally in Brisbane, so users there can have LAN-like speeds. It allows a large company to have an enterprise access to their data, and you can roll out company-wide one system. Now, going in more detail at part 3 on Thursday, and Richard Stollier will be taking you through that. We've also got data syncing for contractors, and this is mainly for large construction projects where at the moment they have trouble synchronizing data from a central database model to 12D Field and other applications running on tablets. So we've got a data syncing tool which pushes that data out to the tablets and also brings the data back in to the central database model. Now I'll be going through this major feature in more detail tomorrow. Now, other features, connectors, ways to bring in and export data from 12D Synergy. So, first of all, there's an import from CSV, so now you can bring all your contact information in really quickly. And we've also integrated with a lot of the financial packages. So the idea here is that jobs are created in these financial packages. It might have information, attributes such as address, some financial information. And Synergy, once a job is created in those products, Synergy will recognize that and populate 12D Synergy with that job and the associated templates, so a folder structure, potential files, tasks associated to the correct people. To create jobs, you just update in one place in the financial package, and then that information flows into Synergy. So there's only a single source of truth there for that data. You're not manually entering things multiple times. So products such as AbTrack, MYB, Workflow Max, and Xero are all integrated out of the box. We also integrate with some of the Microsoft products such as SharePoint, their data management system, and Microsoft Dynamics, their CRM as well. In Synergy, there is a scripting language which allows us to connect to different products, and you can also utilize that scripting engine to connect to any other system out there. General updates, we've got watch folders. So if you've got administration staff that do scanning, they might not even be users of 12D Synergy. They just scan the documents, put it in a network folder location, and Synergy will detect the file exists and automatically suck that information into 12D Synergy and add the appropriate attributes. We have companies in version 3. Staff members can be associated with companies. And of course, companies can have attributes, and those attributes can be used throughout the system. So companies are really useful if you want to search for staff. So say if you're issuing a document, you can actually search by a company name rather than the actual staff member. You can now copy 12D model projects, and also to help with the upgrading process, because you may have several hundred users there, we've now got an auto upgrader so that when the server upgrades, all clients, when they next contact the server, they can push that data down to them and then it can auto-install for them, just making the upgrade process much, much easier. Of course, that file can be located on a website if you don't want to slow down the network sending these files around. To get a complete audit trail in 12D Synergy, it's important to have a description every time you change a file. Now, in version 3, we've made it even easier to create descriptions, predefined descriptions, and you can even select descriptions using your numbers on the keyboard. So I've just made it much easier to get it in there. Tasks have been a really popular feature in 12D Synergy. A lot of clients have put all their business workflows in as tasks in Synergy, and this option for inline task previewing will make it even easier. So sometimes workflows will actually be written in the description of a task, and now you can just toggle through the different tasks and you can see the preview information down below, meaning you don't have to open up each task to see the description. It just makes tasks a lot easier to use. All users can now get personal jobs automatically created. That means it's an area that you can store personal documents or even file away personal emails, or just do some testing in an area that's not in a work environment. Now, it's always important when you exit 12D Synergy that you check in all your documents. In version 3, we've made that a lot easier because there's this nag screen. So when you try and close Synergy, if anything's checked out, it'll actually pop up and say, hang on, you've got these 3 files that need to be checked back in. And you can select them, check them all back in, and then exit the program. Just makes it a lot easier. We've really sped up a lot of the browsing and file listing, especially now we've got so many enterprise clients on board, just making it much better and scale a lot better for those larger businesses. The ability to enforce naming rules on the file names of data in 12D Synergy has been a really popular feature. Now in version 3, we've also got auto-incrementing rules. So when you upload a group of, say, site photos, it'll automatically give it picture 1, picture 2, picture 3. There's also 3 settings of the auto-incrementer. So one is an individual counter at the folder level. Another one is at the job level and for a system-wide view. So for a certain job, you might have DWG files that you want unique numbers job-wide, or potentially, Word documents, you want a counter that resets system-wide. So you've got that real control to be able to enforce your naming conventions across the entire business. Also, for our clients over in NZ, we've now got a TIFF converter when uploading TIFFs to Land Online. So that should be a bit of a time saver for you in New Zealand. For clients sending large file types over some potentially unreliable internet connections, you'll be pleased to know that the file transfers can now resume if your internet actually drops out. So that could save you a lot of time. Email management. We've now got a drop zone so that you can drag and drop files into that area and they'll automatically be filed away to 12D Synergy. For popular programs like Word, Excel and Outlook, we've got ribbon bars so that you can do all the standard options like check-in, check-out, add attributes and other things straight from the programs that you're used to working. Now for Outlook, the ribbon bar now has a button that you can save attachments from the emails, which makes it really, really easy. Connecting emails to contacts is really about conversation tracking, so that threads in an email will be grouped together. It's also, when you look at contact information, you can also see all the emails that have been sent to and from that contact. For many clients, the email management feature has actually been the sole reason for them adopting the 12D Synergy system. To save emails to Synergy automatically, we use what we call an email stamp. Now, this stamp is put in the subject line, and as soon as you receive an email with that stamp, it automatically gets filed away to Synergy. Now, if you have a conversation where that stamp is kept in the subject line, you don't actually have to do anything. Those emails will be filed away. Now, we had a request from a client that the stamp be created by multiple attributes inside the job. So the job may have a discipline and a region involved, and then those two combined make up the stamp for that job. So in future, that can be saved away. So just again, a bit more power and flexibility in the email management side. The AutoCAD plugins now work with Civil 3D. For MX users, all the reference tracking is now rock solid, which is great. AutoCAD fans will be happy to know that the latest AutoCAD 2016 and 17 already work for version 3, and the latest BricsCAD version also works. There's an option in version 3.2 to scan 12D Synergy and find any broken references. So in a DWG file, that would be XREFs, and if they're broken, then there's a system to easily reattach those XREFs. The publishing system inside of 12D Synergy is kind of like Dropbox, where you save the files away, and then you send someone a web browser link. They open it up in the browser, and they can download the files. Really good for large files that don't fit into email, something that's like 20, 30 megabytes or even larger. Well, for version 3, we've added extra security, so it's now HTTPS. When a user publishes a file as well, 12D Synergy registers when that file's actually been downloaded. So from a document transmittal perspective, you've actually got a digital record confirming that the client downloaded it and the date and the user that downloaded it. So it's fully trackable. Version 3.2, we introduced the idea of a web drop, which is kind of like reverse publishing. Essentially, you select an area in Synergy that you want the files to go. You then send the client a web link. They go onto the website, drag and drop some files in, fill out the attribute information that you've requested, and then hit send, and it'll actually send those files back into the system. So we've now got a way to send and receive data from clients who may not have 12D Synergy. Finally, too, for the transmittals, you can now issue entire folder structures rather than individual files. When issuing two, rather than just sending it to one person, you can also now send lots of CCs in, and again, that's tracked and managed for you. And that's really just some of the features available in version 3. It really was the tip of the iceberg. We've got plenty more features in there. We just didn't have time to show them today. If you want to contact your sales representative, they can also take you through the full list of features. Now, we've still got plenty more in the following What's New webinars. In part 2 of the What's New, I'll be taking you through the data sync tools, which enable contractors to synchronize their data from the survey manager, pushing out data to the surveyor's tablets in the field. And then on part 3, we've also got the file replication servers, which allow large and medium-sized businesses to cache data in their separate office, allowing regional and global work sharing, really speeding up that process. So be sure to catch us then. Thank you very much for your time.
I think you'll all agree that if you're not using Synergy now, there's lots of good reasons for it to be used inside your business. But back to 12D model. With the least squares network, we've actually got a scale factor being added to it. As point management, you can import new points, edit and delete. You can have azimuths to observe network rays. You can import additional data into your current adjustment set, and you can also extract data and send them out to an individual model. Tables were introduced in version 11, and again we've got a whole lot of extra things you can do. You can have horizontal lines coloured, different line styles for the boundaries, different colours for the boundaries. You can merge cells and it'll tell you to discard or combine them, explode tables. You can actually have a colour same as box works for the tables. The global delete and rename both now works for tables, and you can actually have multiple files, and we'll demonstrate that one to you. And there's macro calls for the tables. With dimensions, again, they're in version 11. You can keep the angle when you're at 2.1, so you don't have to keep asking for it. Again, the colour box, same as works, global delete, global rename, and macro calls for dimensions. With leaders, similar sort of thing. There's variables to say whether it's how it's actually aligned. You can align it to existing leaders. You can have line weights. The colour box works same as global delete, global rename, and macro calls. One thing that was a problem with the dimensions and leaders in the version 11 was if you just want to change, say, one thing, like one of the colours of your part of your leader, you had to have a new style. We've changed that, and you can now override these sorts of things much more easily. You can also then put those with the overrides on menus and on toolbars. So we've got dimension overrides for both, and putting them on. Same with leaders, but I'll get actually Peter to show it to you, so much easier than trying to explain it.
Leaders and dimensions created here sometimes require a slight change rather than having to go and create a new style. Version 12 now has under utilities a style override. So we pick the dimension, you can override colour, the dimension line. We can also change it. It's not everything, but we can change the extension beyond the dimension line. So we can put in one there. Also the distance from the original point. Obviously the styles and so forth. If we do select that string again, the existing properties show what has been changed from the original style. But it does get to a stage where this all might be well and good, but you might find yourself having to maybe create a dimension style that reflects all these changes. Same thing under leader. We have the style override. So it works in a similar manner. So I can change some of the features. Style, colour. Another good ones here is the hook length, where you want to move the text a little bit further away. And again, if I repick that at a later stage, anything over here shows me that I have actually changed them from the original style. Inside version 11, there was an option to create a table from a CSV file. That is now a function. So you can select the CSV file, and again, it being a function, if anything happens to the CSV file updates, the table and function will update as well. Pick up a style. We've got some text information in this file for the columns, so that's column number 1. It'll fix that across the tables. We're doing tab. We want to start number 2 in our first row and finish number 8, and distance between the columns, and a model. Again, this is the line being read from the first line of the file, and then populated across each of the tables.
Thanks, Pete. Now we're on just the last little section and for today, and this is now we've had all these attributes and things and properties. Now how can we actually label them? So we had a label map file up to version version 11, but we've now introduced a new thing called a string attribute and property label map file. Sorry. And you can be more flexible, and it also uses dimension and leaders. And so I'll get Peter to show that one as well, since again it's easier to show it than to try and talk.
This new option in V12 will be an extension of the label map file. You'll be able to combine the string properties of an element along with string attributes. The information will be able to place as a text or a leader. In the file IO, label map files, string attribute property label file. We've just got a test one. We started to look at the process of labeling a building. label types that are allowable. A point. So in that case there you might use a point just to label a manhole or a tree or a fire hydrant. A point with a leader means it would label those a manhole as such. If there wasn't enough room, you'd be able to put a leader on there. Pipe and leader. So it'll label the input levels of the pipe and information at the centre of the pipe, the diameter, grade, and length. And if the pipe is too short to fit that text, it will then place a leader instead. Same idea as for culverts and polylines, and again polygons will be for areas of buildings and pavements, and it will also obey a rule. If the area or the polygon was a certain size or too small to place the text, it would then go to a leader. It operates on name like a label map file, so we picked up the name of this string. We're going to select the text file. We're doing just doing property at the moment, so we're just looking at the area, but there are other ones available there for you as well. We can pair information together on the same line. Notice for places, prefix and a suffix, whether it's active or not, and a model name for the particular label. This is all applied through the new label option. So looking at our model, and we select our test label file, create update. So basically it's created the information for that particular string as a polygon and put the text inside. So besides combining or specifying properties, we also can obviously do the attributes for strings. So we click on the string, we can use the attribute. In this case we are using use, and again we can insert another one. Again, select the string. We're going to go material. So whether or not those attributes are self-explanatory, that they may not need prefix and suffix, we can then go write that file out. Okay, we can now go update. It then now shows information to do with the attributes supplied. So in that case here we're looking at the use, which was a shed, and the material, which was iron sheeting. So again, it's just a combination in a multi-line text environment and a combination of the properties with the attributes. We'll have a look at a more detailed one. Here we just run the option and we come back and talk about what we have actually done. So again, we're able to label our pine trees, for instance. We're able to label our station points. So the station point here is a label point, so the text is just placed next to the station. We've picked up the point ID as a station, the X, Y, and the height, and also an attribute, which was a type of station it was. In this case, it was peg, and then it's placed on a model. Here we've looked at the trees, so we're picking up attributes, the tree species, trunk size, and foliage, and then as we pick each one of these label types, we finish them with a group N command. So looking at other trees, some we've picked up all of them. This one we've only labelled just the one tree with a unique name for the group of trees. We drop down the driveway one. Here we're looking at driveway, and we picked up a polygon, similar to the one we did with the shed here, and we're labelling area and a attribute which is the type of driveway. So it's picked up the attribute called type gravel. I discussed before the information about a pipe. In that case here we're looking at the pipe. It's a special feature, a special label type. The first two lines are mandatory as the invert level, so that they are then placed at the appropriate positions on the pipe. And everything after that is in place in the centre of the pipe. So in that case here we're looking at diameter and length, grade and type. And we're using the pairing option here to pair together the length and the grade along the pipe itself. So in this case here we're looking at the pipe scenario. So there's a maximum length here. So this pipe here was 14.53. So therefore it went to a leader. So if I change that to something like 12, and then we create update, but then placed it on the string itself. We can move these things around, so I can actually move this text. So if we move the manhole information and we go update, it remembers where that was positioned. So we go back to our pipe, we can change that back to 30 metres because we can't read that text, and then puts back the actual leader. So again, you can also edit the leaders, not only just move the text around, but you can also then edit leaders, and again, update, remembers the location. So the same idea with the maximum length works for the area here. So we're looking at the maximum polygon area. So it was less than 25 square metres, so I went to a leader rather than putting the area inside the polygon itself. These options can be just made inactive, so we can work our way down there and turn them off and rerun again, or add to each label and save the file and redo the labelling again. The idea of moving the text around and positioning it and it being smart text and remembering where that is as you go update again is showing well here. So if we go back to our label for this type of ASCOM data, similar to this one, we'll just read the ASCOM one in. Been around before, and I've just moved the text around so you can see it's a little bit easier to read, and I might position the text and the manhole text and all the leaders away, so just for a bit of clarity. So again, we drop down there, you can see these ones are quite a way away. That's the benefit of the leaders, obviously. So looking at our manholes here, again, we've got something turned off. It's an attribute for that particular pit, so it's just simply a matter of turning it on or adding it, replacing the file, and then rerunning. So now let's put in the lid rectangular. Down the bottom here, we've got someone set up for a fire hydrant. So it's going to be a point leader for the fire hydrant. It's going to pick up the attributes picked up in the field. And again, just a matter of adding them or turning them on.
Right, thank you very much, Pete. That then finalises what we're showing today. We've looked at the attribute manipulator, Trimeshes, BIM, drainage, some new things in Synergy 3, least squares network, dimensions and leaders, and then finally the labelling and string attributes and properties. So you see a lot of things in there to help your productivity and make the job easier. Our future webinars, we have the one tomorrow and then Thursday, and then each one of these will be different. So I'll just now hand back to Lisa.
Thank you, Lee. If you enjoyed today's webinar, keep an eye on our website for upcoming webinars in our Industry Solutions and Training series. We'll keep updating it with many more topics in coming weeks and also keep you posted through email and social media. Don't forget, as Lee mentioned, we've also got our next 12D International Conference this July with the associated Innovation Awards. The awards closing date is the end of May, so if you haven't submitted your entry, now is the time. If you need to contact us in the meantime, our details are on the screen now. That concludes our presentation for today. Thank you for attending, and we'll see you at the next webinar.